Welcome, everybody, to Messari's flagship annual event, Mainnet. Our team has worked like crazy to put together a phenomenal agenda and experience for you while we're all still in quarantine, hopefully getting out of quarantine relatively soon. We know it is a wild time right now across the world, particularly in the US. So we appreciate you hanging out with us for the next 2.5 days. And could not be more pleased, not only with the support of our partners and all the attendees that have showed up and registered, but also to our fantastic team who did in 6 weeks what takes most very well-oiled machines out of professional event organizers about 6 months to do. So this has been a fast and furious quarantine for the Messari team. We welcome all of you and hope that you'll enjoy this virtual event experiment. We're going to kick right off. I'm going to get into a little bit of housekeeping just to start, and then maybe a little bit of what has changed in the last 6 months since we wrote our 2020 crypto theses. Not, of course, intending that there would be a pandemic, mass riots, 30% unemployment. The world has changed, but crypto has kept humming right along. So I think the first thing that I want to reiterate, one of the biggest changes that we've seen over the course of the last several months, the world going into lockdown and responding to the coronavirus, is all things virtual. And at the beginning, I think many people believed that virtual events might be a passing fad. Hey, we can't wait to get back to physical environments where we can actually network in person and do business in person. I think the longer amount of time that people have been locked down, the more people have seen that this is going to be the future state. There will be less business travel. There will be less international time zone hopping to go to the same events, meet the same people. That's still very important to do in person, but we at Messari truly believe that virtual events are here to stay, and they offer some unique opportunities, right? They make things more accessible. They allow for more spontaneous, regular interactions. And ultimately done right with the right venue, the right investments in technology, we think that we're going to be able to get closer and closer to mirroring the live event experience. So give you an example, I encourage everybody, maybe not during the main stage sessions this morning, but at least during the afternoon, to mingle about the virtual networking area within Hopin. You'll see all of these different venue areas on the left-hand side of your browser tab. Reminder again, you should be using Chrome or Firefox right now. Brave causes some issues. Opera causes some issues because of their privacy settings and some of the integration challenges with Hopin being a Series A stage startup. So we absolutely want to make sure that you're directing your attention in the right location and ultimately checking out the networking and expo tabs, which are going to be maybe the best BD opportunities and maybe the closest mirror to what you typically expect in a live event cocktail hour or happy hour where people are getting together and catching up as old friends. The nice thing about virtual networking in this venue is that it is time limited. If you would like to continue conversations, you meet someone that you were hoping to meet, or you meet someone that you weren't expecting to meet but ends up being a magical match, then you can continue those private conversations in our session area. All one-to-one conversations that you start from the networking area or that you initiate with someone in the chat is private and encrypted. Anything that is larger than one-to-one is available in the sessions area for public viewing. So keep that in mind as you're networking and as you're setting up meetings. Ultimately, you can refer to the terms of service on the site, and you can also rest assured that we are doing everything in our power to make sure that you have a good experience and that all of your private conversations are kept private. Everything that's public is ultimately going to be available for public consumption later on, particularly in our pre-programmed sessions. So I appreciate that. I will reiterate again, I said this in the pre-roll, but for those of you who are just signing in, the word of the day, patience. I think we could all use that at a national level, at an international level. We are new to virtual events. Our team is bent over backwards to put together a phenomenal experience, and I think you're going to have a lot of fun. This is a new platform there are a ton of people that are signed on simultaneously. So we are going to be really testing the mettle of the young Hopin team and infrastructure. It has held up so far. If you are having issues, your best friend is the refresh button and checking which browser you're in. If you're in Chrome, Firefox, you should be good to go. If you're in something else, well, refer to the chat. We'll tell you again, please use Chrome, Firefox for the optimal experience. Other than that, we're going to have fun. And I want to thank everybody who's joined us so far, who's helped us raise, this is actually outdated, over $75,000 for COVID relief from this particular event. You can tack on another $100,000 from the poker event last night, which, drum roll please, and it was not rigged. He's a former professional poker player, my friend, and co-founder Dan McCardle took down the top prize from the charity poker tournament that was sponsored by Casper Labs. And he got one of the dopest watches that I've ever seen as a result. We'll probably share that watch on Twitter a little bit later on. He doesn't have it in his physical possession yet, but it is amazing. I'm jealous. I came in 25th. I was sitting next to Dan for a long time, then I got a couple of bad beats, but that's okay. He's a better player than I am, and at least one of us took it down. Reminder, if you want to share this with your friends and colleagues, every single dollar that is raised, 50 cents are going to COVID relief. 50 cents are going to us to reinvest in the business and bring more high quality content and networking opportunities and events like this in the future. So thank you again for your support, and please remember, share with your friends and colleagues. We have put together a virtual event that if it was in meat space would easily be $1,000 or $1,500 or $2,000 ticket. And we've done it all for $100. So it is maybe the best bang for the buck that you are going to get if you're invested in sticking around and watching through your web browser, playing around with the interactive tools that Hopin has created. 200 plus speakers in 6 weeks. Suicide mission. But our team has gotten it done. I want to thank Alexa Kim on our team, who's been the producer of this event, Ben O'Neill, who's helped with Expo, all things sponsorship, and Emily from our marketing side. It's been just a phenomenal group effort and one of the hardest working teams that I've ever had the privilege of working with. There are many people to thank on the Messari team, top to bottom, but those three in particular deserve some special thanks and call out right now. They have helped me put together 200 speakers, 100 sessions covering 75 different projects. This is a 4-person team in 6 weeks. So we think that everything is buttoned up and ready to go. If you have any issues, then please let us know in the chat and we'll do our best to resolve them. There are inevitably going to be some technical issues that I'm sure some speakers may have. A little bit of patience. And when in doubt, check the chat. I'm going to be referring to that again and again throughout the day. But today we have a phenomenal lineup of speakers that are going to be covering a narrative structure throughout the events. Why crypto? Why invest in crypto? What is the institutional appetite for crypto? And basically, how does that divide between stablecoins, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other smart contract solutions? All of that is going to be covered in our morning sessions in just a few minutes here. When it comes to the evening sessions, we're going to talk about the how. How do you actually acquire? How do you borrow? How do you trade crypto assets? We've got a loaded lineup of exchange, lending, staking service leaders that are going to be presenting later on tonight. It is a split session so that we can loop in more participants from Asia and Europe. And then tomorrow we're going to transition our focus to be a little bit more about Web3, Layer 1 protocols, DeFi applications, and some of the nitty-gritty of decentralized finance. Today is a phenomenal day for institutions, and all throughout, crypto investors are going to want to check out these sessions because, again, we have 75 different projects presenting. A very large percentage, 95% plus, last check, of the legitimate market cap in the industry. And I think everybody that's followed me for a while knows who I'm subtweeting and casting shade on when I say legitimate is represented. You can look and see who the glaring absences are for those projects that are not presenting because they weren't invited. All right, moving on. We're going to go through these relatively quickly because I do not want to spoil the presentations that our research team has pulled together following the same structure. I think I will say, to start out, the coronavirus has changed everything. Right? When we entered this year, none of us were expecting the absolute shit show that we are currently enduring globally, and in particular right now in the US. Our team has been on this very early. We've tried to think very thoughtfully about how we could cover it, how we could warn people, how we could ultimately embed it into our coverage without getting into cringe territory, because there is an element, for better or for worse, where we believe that the impact, the second order impact the coronavirus has had on the markets, and in particular on central banking and fiscal policies worldwide, is maybe the greatest catalyst for Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies that we possibly could have imagined. The question has become, are we ready for prime time? And in this evening's presentation, Ryan Watkins, one of our research analysts who's been extraordinary on Twitter and covering all things macro, is going to talk a little bit about the what ifs in terms of capital inflows. What if we see a certain percentage of inflows from hedge funds? What if that ultimately extends to family offices, sovereign wealth funds, pension funds, some of the really big boy institutional investors, big boy and girl institutional investors, and ultimately what impact that could have on price, whether that ultimately creates a trickle-down effect for all other crypto assets. And then he's also going to go into the nuts and bolts in a bit more detail to introduce our evening sessions, particularly around the race to become a full service crypto financial institution. In just the last 3 weeks, we've seen a lot of activity on the exchange front, on the prime brokerage front, both in the US and abroad. And we've basically got CEOs and founder speakers from all of these infrastructure companies whose logos you can see here. Mike Morrow from Genesis, Mike Belsha from BitGo, Andy Bromberg from CoinList, Sam Bankman-Fried from FTX, CZ from Binance, and some other representatives across the board from not only these organizations, but others, including Coinbase, Kraken, Circle. It's cover to cover the executive base that you're going to want to hear from when you're thinking about the how to acquire and how to actually handle crypto assets as an institutional investor. If you are catering to those clients, they should be here. If you are one of those clients, you should be able to meet a lot of great people to help you with your decision making and understanding for how you can actually get your firm invested in this new asset class. Ryan Watkins will be kicking off this evening session at 8 p.m. Eastern time with a presentation that goes into much more detail beyond these slides. Of course, this event and Messari as a company, very, very focused on crypto assets themselves. And by and large, beyond Bitcoin, this means protocol tokens. And in particular, we are seeing a massive year, couple of quarters really, for Layer 1 protocol tokens that are finally launching their networks after years of private builds, test nets, and now coming to market with some pretty sophisticated protocols that you might argue compete with or complement Ethereum in the smart contract space. We'll hear from Huta from Polkadot, Renee from Celo, some of the executives from Near and Solana will be presenting. Dominic from Definity is presenting tomorrow. Coda, Casper Labs, Flow, all of these different protocols will be presenting tomorrow during our Web3 sessions. This is the year of mainnets, which is why we decided to call this conference Mainnet. Wilson Lithium from our team will be presenting at 10 a.m. tomorrow, followed immediately by one of the marquee speaking sessions at this year's event from Balaji Srinivasan, who has been lights out. He's the one that first warned me about the coronavirus. Take it seriously. I would listen to him when he speaks because he is operating on a different plane when it comes to intelligence and common sense, a rarity, I think, in Silicon Valley and beyond, although he's going to tell you that he's presenting from an undisclosed location. The lineup for the rest of the day is going to segue into applications. And in particular, Jack Purdy, our third research analyst extraordinaire, is going to be covering DeFi, and in particular, some of the applications that have really started to pick up steam. The knock on DeFi has been that it's early, that it doesn't really have product market fit, or some people might argue that. We've even called a session in tonight's main stage general sessions, Moon Math and Capitalism 2.0. Moon Math is probably an appropriate term when it comes to DeFi and dApps, and in particular decentralized exchange. It does seem that there is product market fit there, and the numbers simply don't lie. We've seen DEX volumes explode 5 times over the last year, steadily gaining share in all trading volume, even versus centralized exchanges. Ultimately, we're going to have the 3 top DEX operators, Bill Warren, Loi Lu, and Hayden from Uniswap, presenting tomorrow night during the DeFi session after Jack's table setting presentation. In addition, we're also going to have the top 3 dApp protocols, DeFi protocols, according to value locked in smart contracts. I'm talking about Greg DePrisco from MakerDAO, Rob Leshner from Compound, and Kane Warwick from Synthetics. It is cover to cover one of the most exciting lineups that I've seen. I'm looking forward to tuning in. Good thing, because I'm going to be glued to this stool for the remainder of these sessions. I will warn you before we get into our first panel that I will be running a very tight ship, and I have all sorts of props. I will give speakers a 2-minute warning, and if needed, I will serenade them off stage like so if they go over time. We're going to run a tight ship. We're going to treat this as if it is a main stage. I will be ruthless as an MC and moderator. Other than that, everybody else should enjoy the show.